somehow boys just like these nasty stuff.
Yeah,
Wonder why.
yeah. And farts. And farts. So
Hey, some things don't change.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon on today's webinar about parenting while working, while under quarantine during COVID-19. We've had a lot of different webinars over the past couple of weeks, but I wanted to have one that was really practical that many of us are having to learn to navigate, and that's how do you continue working and being productive while you have children at home and needing to take care of them and their needs. So really want to start by thanking our panelists for joining us. We have Helen from Hayland Real Estate. We have Jeff Rosa from Market Real Estate, Michelle Kim from Mosaic, and Vicki Lee from Providence. Let's just start by a quick introduction into how many kids you have, boys, girls, what their ages are, and then we'll get started with questions. Helen, let's go ahead and begin with you.
Sure. So again, I'm Helen Chong, and I have 3 kids, and their ages are 9 and a half, 8, and 6. And it's 2 boys and a girl. Yeah, so it's been challenging. They all around the same age and definitely have a lot of schoolwork, and they also go to Chinese school. So not only the regular school, they also have their Chinese school homework as well.
Right. Jeff.
Yeah, so Jeff Rosa with Market Real Estate in San Diego. I have 3 kids, a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And I think things would be going really, really well if the 3-year-old wasn't in the mix. He makes it a challenge to get schoolwork accomplished around here. I will also say one more thing. I'm married to a teacher who happens to be taking the year off. So like, I feel kind of guilty even sitting on this panel because she's got it pretty dialed in. So I can speak to her expertise if anybody wants me to, but I will give her a lot of credit.
So Jeff's advice for anyone who's sitting in on this panel who is single, still marry a teacher. And maybe for the rest of us, train your significant other in how to be a teacher.
Yes, 100%.
Michelle.
Hi, Michelle Kim, Mosaic Real Estate in San Francisco. I have 3 children myself. Seems to be the trend here. So my eldest is 12. He's in 7th grade, boy. And I have a daughter, Addison, who is 9 years old. She's in 4th grade. And my youngest, Orion, is a boy. He is in 2nd grade at 8 years old.
Thank you. And Vicki. We might have lost Vicki on the connection. Look, there you go. Vicki?
Yeah, I have 2. I'm Vicki Lee. I have 2 boys. One is 7, one is 5. The 7-year-old is in 2nd grade. The 5-year-old is in kindergarten.
Awesome. And for everyone here, I am Jay Coley. I have a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son. He just turned 1 last week, 2 weeks ago, during this shelter in place. So unfortunately not the birthday we would have expected for him, but it was fun nonetheless. So I'm going to make this these questions for everyone. So I'll just call on each of you to be able to answer to start with, and we'll just go from there until we start to get some questions from the audience. So Jeff, you mentioned your wife is a teacher. I'd love to hear a little bit from you first about how you're managing their school curriculum while the kids are at home. And then I'll ask that question for everyone else here too.
Yeah, so we actually, when we got the shelter in place order, the school was heading into spring break. And so we, being married to a teacher, we didn't really take spring break and give them the time off. We tried to transition into like an academic schedule and keep the kids on a schedule. And it wasn't until last week that school came back with an actual curriculum to follow. So my wife really kind of stepped up and thought that organizing a curriculum, and I mean, she's taught 3rd grade and we have a 3rd grader. She's taught kindergarten and we have a kindergartner. So she really organized the curriculum. I think with the most important thing being like keeping a schedule going
Mhm.
and doing something until the school came with their curriculum.
Thank you. Helen, how about you?
Um, so I remember as soon as we found out that there's no more school and the teachers sent out some, actually they didn't even know what to do at the time. So I had to figure out what is their normal school schedule is, because the first thing I told them, I was like, you guys are going to stick with your regular school schedule because your mom and your dad are going to be working. There's no way we can be sitting next to you to watch what you're doing. So I was pretty stressed that weekend, and I put together a schedule for each of them, and basically tell them, okay, from this time to this time, this is what you're going to do. Didn't expect that they're going to fall really tight on their school schedule, but at least as a guidelines for them to see, if I come out and say, did you do this? They know that, okay, yeah, we're supposed to follow that schedule. So I told them that I rely on them to be more self-disciplined, and the curriculum is all, we have to wait for the teachers to let us know what they're supposed to study, what they're supposed to read. But at the end of the day, we tell the kids is that this is your schoolwork. You have to be responsible for it. You don't understand, you have to ask the teacher. Obviously, our kindergartner is a little bit harder for her to do that herself. But we basically, everybody, the dad, mom, and the brothers, everybody's helping each other out right now.
That's cute. Vicky, how about you? Since you also have younger children.
It's been quite a challenge trying to get them to stay put. They obviously don't listen to mom and dad as much as they do with their teachers. So initially with the SIP, we kind of let loose with the schedule on the first week and a half or so, just because I think it's normal to react in that sense. It was hard to put them on a strict schedule. Then after we started realizing that they won't be going to school for a while, so we started pulling up curriculums. We contact the teachers directly versus waiting for the district to contact us about curriculum and stuff. So we contacted the teacher directly, got a curriculum, got a schedule down. It's work in progress as usual. And so we just work with that. We started ordering books online and try to keep them on track as much as we can. So what we've been doing to incentivize them is for every page that they finish, they get a minute towards screen time.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so that seems to help. Yeah. But they can only cash out 30 minutes per day for screen time. And that screen time can relate to either game time or Alexa or something educational online.
That's a really good idea. Michelle.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
No worries.
The question again is, how are we coping with the schedule with the kids' school?
Yeah, how are you managing their school curriculum while you're sheltered in place and making sure they're still, learning?
Right. So my children attend a private school, and they're calling this time distance learning. And they call it distance learning because I think if they called it homeschooling, people would ask, why are we still paying tuition? So the distance learning has been, it's been very interesting, and we're adapting. They log on in the mornings and they do a Zoom video call with their teachers. Their teachers give them the curriculum for the rest of the day, and they have different subjects throughout the day. So they'll log in for Spanish at like 10:30, and they'll log in for math at, 11:30 or whatever it may be. And they have to be responsible for their schedule. I'm obviously working on the sideline and cooking and making sure that they're well fed. And let me tell you, I'm incredibly impressed at how many times they open that fridge throughout the day. I mean, I'm like, these children are constantly checking what's in the fridge. But managing and juggling work and being a parent and cooking and cleaning and all that fun stuff, it's definitely eventful, but we are working through it. We're getting some systems in place. So it's been pretty good.
Awesome. I'd love to hear from you guys how you've been, and this isn't just about the kids, but how have you been working while you've been home with the kids? So any tips or tricks, whether it's how you've kept the kids busy or just in general about work, working with your clients during this time frame. If you have any suggestions that you think would be, or stories, whether they're, this is how you should do it, or this did not work for me, and so don't repeat my mistake. I think both are equally good learning opportunities for everyone. So whoever would like to get us started.
Well, I can start. I don't know if it's because like my husband and I, we've been pretty strict, and especially my husband had the military background, so it's like when it's a no, it's a no. It's not like no, don't do it. We're kind of like, don't even try to cross that line. So we've been really strict on that. I have my sign on my door saying do not disturb. Whenever I close that door, lock it, they know they're not supposed to come in. If they really have to come in, they really come in quietly, trying to stay away from the camera so that no one knows that they are even in here. I find it that I told them is that if you respect my work, I'll respect yours too. I give them a lot of independence because I told them that if I can trust you, then I will give you more independence. If you do something that I cannot trust, for example, you start to slack off on your homework, then obviously I won't allow you to be more independent and do things on your own. So I think kids, they like that. They like the fact that they are being respected. They like the fact that they are given the independence. So I let them choose. You know, every action has a consequence. If you don't choose the right path, then you have the other consequence.
Great. How about you, Michelle?
I feel like during this time, you have to use your time wisely. So I aim to tackle the most important tasks that require a lot of attention when they are the most preoccupied. So for instance, when I'm trying to take my daily routine of calling and checking in with my minimum of 5 meaningful calls per day, I do it during this time when they're logged in with their classes. Because our place is 4 bedroom, 2 baths, I have 3 kids. They're each taking up the 3 other bedrooms, and the smallest one is actually my office. Because my daughter and my youngest son, they share a room. And now I don't have my office either because they're all online in each of the rooms. But I feel like during this time, I'm able to, make my meaningful phone calls throughout the day, return emails, checking in with my clients, dealing with the listing, prepping for when this shelter in place gets lifted, all of the things that require the most focus when they're preoccupied. And I think that this has been working for us. The first week, of course, I think we were all just trying to figure out a routine. But after the second week, kids need structure. And once you have that structure in place, it just makes it easier to cope with and, and move along the way throughout this pandemic.
Thank you. Vicky, how about your thoughts?
I think so far what my husband Stanley and I have been doing is putting our schedule on schedule. So he knows when I need to go on a call. He knows when I need to go out for a showing with strict protocols, right? So we time block. I time block, a few hours in a day in the morning, so I can do my calls, catch up on emails, go do tours or whatnot. And he take that time to get the kids started with, homeschooling or social learning. And that's what we do. We put on the calendar so that there is no question on what I need to do and what he needs to do. And then we take turns. So when it's my turn to take care of the kids, then, I spend time with them with Legos or home cooking classes, trying to fold into something where there's quality time with them when I'm not working. So we pretty much just try to put everything on schedule. So there's no like, oh, well, this is my time, or I have another, call, whatnot. So we understand each other's schedule, and that seems to help a lot.
That's what my wife and I have been doing every morning. Okay, tell me what important phone calls you have, and I'll tell you what important phone calls I have. So that way we trade off the kids. And if both of us have an important phone call at the same time, that's when Peppa the Pig becomes my kids' parents.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but taking an iPad away from a 3-year-old is just such a bear. And I call it our 2 to 3 daily tantrums. That's been the new norm. Jeff, how about you?
Well, I've always just had a home office. So traditionally, I've been able to get a lot of, if you hear the background noise, there's piano lessons going on in our house, which I'm clearly not a part of. I've always been really good at getting a lot of work done, like between the hours of like 5 and 7 in the morning before everybody's up making noise. And then I'll be the person that makes breakfast and usually does lunches and then makes dinner too. So I try to really balance, like, I'm not the teacher in the household. So I try to make up for it in other places as much as possible. And then even on the weekends. But as everyone on this panel knows, like your schedule, you think it's going to be one way 1 minute, and then it completely changes the next. I will also say that I finally put locks on my office doors. For some reason, my home office, like this place is designed with 2 doors. So I have to have 2 locks, but it's not uncommon for people to kind of walk through. But it's also like when you're on the phone with somebody and you're talking to them and you get interrupted, it kind of just brings a little bit of real world life to, and shows your client that you're a human being kind of going through the same thing. So, no one's getting upset over the fact that you don't have, their undivided attention necessarily. And it actually helps you, build connections with your clients to be going through the same thing, in my opinion.
Absolutely. That's what I keep saying. Everyone's going through the same exact scenario. So it's funny, if you guys remember from a couple years ago, the BBC dad who was on TV talking about South Korea, and the kids just came running in. We're all now that dad.
Like my daughter just snuck in very quietly, and she was actually right next to me, but she knows how to stay away from the camera, and no one can hear her.
I saw you do the mom eye when she probably walked in. But Jeff, you bring up a good point. I want to hear a little bit about how each of you are working with your clients, especially. Has anyone had a listing presentation in the past couple of weeks during shelter in place?
More a buyer's presentation, not a listing presentation.
Sure. So talk to me about how you've been working with your clients then during this time period.
Honestly, I feel like it's not that much of a difference. Honestly, it's just a difference of face-to-face, or we share screen, and we just put them on Zoom or Hangout, and then we share a screen. The process is very similar, but I think actually clients really like the fact that it's so seamless. I mean, I don't find anything different at the moment, besides the fact that we're just looking at the computer instead of looking at them face-to-face in person.
And you've also been doing a lot on social media recently, and with the, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the group you created about information about starting, which one?
The Bay Area Real
Hall.
Estate Town Hall, yeah.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about what motivated you to do that, and how you've been leveraging that as a way of staying engaged with not only your clients, but also the community as a whole, the real estate community as a whole?
I think for me, it's because I used to do so many events with my different groups, and especially after this shelter in place happened, there's just so much information. It's very fluid, like we talked about. Things keep changing, and I want to make sure that we stay, for me at least, right, and also the real estate community, to stay informed what's going on, what's the latest news. So that's why it was just stuck in my head. It was like, I need to have a platform to just share all this information. But more importantly is that our consumers, our clients, don't really know what's going on the market, on the housing market. So that's why I started doing the webinars, basically connecting, our consumers. Doesn't have to be just my clients, could be anyone on the market. And the idea of the webinar is that actually allowing other real estate professionals to share the expertise. Is not me talking. I'm the moderator. So I'm actually asking questions, and hopefully the real estate community, we can show our consumers that we're working together. We show them we're knowledgeable, we are experienced experts, and so that in a way, changing the way how consumers sees the real estate industry as well.
That's great. And if anyone's interested in learning more or being a panelist in the future for that town hall, please reach out to Helen.
Yeah, would love more idea. Would love to see what kind of topics you guys would like to talk about. I truly think that it is time for us to collaborate more, to share our expertise because one person is just not enough. I have limited knowledge, but I see so many people have so much information and knowledge to share.
So, Vicky, how have your interactions with your clients been during this time period? Vicky?
Sorry, I lost you. What was the
Oh,
question?
no worries. Sorry. I was asking, how have your interactions with your clients been during the shelter-in-place period?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Uh, hello?
Vicky, can you hear us? We will come back to Vicky.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Sorry. For some
problem.
reason, my internet's been really choppy all day today.
No worries.
So not much really has changed. I don't have any listing presentations since the shelter in place. But on the buyer side, really not much has changed. I've been in constant communication with my really serious and active buyers. Those who are not as serious, I kind of leave them on the back burner, but those who are serious, I am actively going out, showing properties with them. But we communicate a lot through Zoom and also through chat, just texting.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle, have there been any changes to the way you've been doing business during the shelter in place for you or your team?
Sure. No, I mean, beyond the fact that we have masks and gloves and booties now, and that's a given, the team is still touring properties, vacant properties, of course. I did tour last week as well with a client of mine, and I haven't had any listing presentations, but I have pulled comps and shared them with sellers who are interested in learning about the current market and what's happening with values. So, and that's been really good. I think that this time has just made everyone kind of, they've put their search or potentially selling their property on pause.
Yep.
And so it's just allowing us to really dial into being with our families, which I think it was really needed. But no, other than that, phone calls and Zoom chats, of course, and any kind of, we share the deck with them with the buyer's guide and CMAs, and then we correspond via email or text or by Zoom call. So that's been all pretty good. I did have one seller who was really eager to go on the market, and she's decided to put her listing on hold, and that was unfortunate, but I also understand she's elderly and she just really needs to be very mindful and cautious. And of course, we will do what we can to support that. So, but other than that, it's been pretty much the same, just a little slower.
Great, thank you. Have any of you, how many of you have now been doing virtual tours for the first time, if any? Michelle, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, we've always had Matterport, that's always been around, but having a 3D video, so it's for buyers who have headsets, that is very fascinating and new to me. So I did that for a listing of mine just recently. And it just boggled my mind when you put the headset on and you watch the video. It feels like you're in the unit.
So you're doing it like a VR, or like an Oculus headset?
Yeah, we have,
interesting.
We have a 12-year-old boy. Of course, you have an Oculus headset. Sure. That was the Christmas gift of last year, right? So yeah, it's fascinating to me because you actually feel like you're in the unit and you're walking through the unit, going to the bathroom and looking at the closet and going to the bedroom. And it's very helpful. I think that this time has created us to be more tech savvy in that regards. And I think it was needed because the technology is here. So why haven't we adapted to it, when we could have in the past? So it's kind of pushing us to do more of it. And I think that it's really, it's just made it easier for a consumer, especially someone that's relocating from out of state, for a job opportunity or whatnot, giving them a virtual tour, for them to see and feel like they're actually in the unit is pretty helpful. So yeah, I just did that with one of my listings. It was really interesting.
Great, thank you. Jeff, have there been any changes to the way you've been handling your daily routine or your business during this time?
Yeah, I mean, we have really like stepped up our marketing presentation with our listings. So now I've got a really good photographer down here, and we've done a lot of property videos over the years, but now we're doing them where I have a voiceover on them.
Oh.
And the reason that's working a couple different ways, like the sellers always love to see great, content from their property going out there. So improving that has done a couple things. It's made the sellers even more impressed with what we're doing. We're telling them we're doing it so we can expose their property to more people and limit their interaction with people coming to their home. So now we're really able to narrow the sights on only qualified buyers and getting rid of anybody who's on the fence. So we're taking that video walkthrough, giving it to the buyers' agents to look at, and then scheduling showings after that. So everybody's just getting a little bit more from it. And I think it's going to end up being the new standard going forward. And I have yet to see a seller, and we've implemented it on a few different properties, because for whatever reason, like I've been really busy down here. Like my clients are still getting divorced and they're still passing away, and the military is still, packing people up and moving them. But that's gone a long ways to kind of like just double down on what we've been doing. And it's really working. And I think it's actually adding value in terms of like what kind of the quality of offer we're seeing come through the door. Because I've always believed like the better quality stuff we put out, right? Like the whole saying of, if you take your own pictures with your iPhone, that your property doesn't sell for as much as if you hired a professional photographer. I think that's even showing, with this as well here.
That's great.
I want to mention one thing about like the virtual showing. For example, Oculus. Really, these technologies been around for a long time. We actually did more of this kind of stuff before. The only difference right now is that now also we are forced. Everybody's forced to use it. But the technology has always been there. And then we also had a lot of foreign buyers who we actually have to do video tour ourselves. So just like what Jeff was saying, you have to narrate the video showings. So it's great. I think the virtual staging is also huge. One of my team members have the listing who did the virtual staging. It looks really real, and I thought that was so amazing how we don't even need to do staging, but on picture it looks like it's been staged.
I was going to ask that actually. Given everyone's been forced to adapt new technologies, new processes, new whatever during this time period. What do you think you're going to continue doing once shelter in place is finished that you started by necessity during this quarantine period? Helen, let's start with you. Is there anything you've started doing now that you think I'm definitely going to continue this even after all this COVID stuff is over?
It's funny that this idea of how we're doing now, I've been imagining this since I had my first child. When you had a baby, you're just like, I cannot get out. How can I make this a little bit more remotely, right? So that was something that's been in the back of my mind. So that's why we've been doing a lot of video tour before, because of the fact that I was like, let's call it a virtual open house. But now it comes into reality that this is what I think a lot of people are going to start using that a lot more. I do think that even though when shelter in place is lifted, social distancing is still going to be a talk. So open houses may still be a little bit wary for some people. So I think it will be a long-term change in terms of doing more of these virtual open houses and virtual showings.
Great. Vicki, how about you? Is there anything you've started doing during shelter in place that you think you're going to continue doing once this is lifted?
Besides getting my business in system, focusing on that, and automated, of course. But no, I think like Helen mentioned, I agree with her in the sense that even after shelter is in place, is lifted, people are still kind of worried about, being social distancing. So I think, the virtual tour and also the video tour, walking through video tour to show your clients, I think that's still going to be, something that I'm going to continue to and of course it's case by case, right? Depending on the clients. If they prefer to come out and see the house and the property is still vacant, then, you know, I'd be happy to show them, but with strict protocol, I'm still gonna maintain my distance until we have a vaccine in place, right? So until then, I think I'm still gonna practice social distancing with clients and everyone else.
Great. Jeff, how about yourself? What are you going to be doing after this? Are you going to continue on with the narrated tours that you've been doing?
Yeah, I think we definitely are, because nobody else is really doing them, and we're putting out, like, I mean, it's real professional looking stuff. So it's still things we're going to be able to share with our clients or potential clients when we go to listing presentations. And, you know, I feel like the more we can do, the better chance, you know, and show the client that we're going to do for them, the more it's going to pay off, you know, going forward. So I can't really see pulling back on this too much.
Great. And Michelle?
I think for sure the virtual tours are something that we are going to continue doing. You know, the other thing, I had a client who asked to do a FaceTime call because they just wanted to see the type of view they had from the specific, you know, bedroom window. And so I think that this is going to end up becoming the new norm. People are going to vet, you know, the properties through the agents, whether it be a virtual tour or a 3D video or even a FaceTime call. I think it's going to be very helpful for them to see before going out there and wasting their time as well, right? And then I've noticed that recently, because a lot of times with Zillow leads, they don't have their pre-approval ready and available. But right now, to do any showing, the listing agents are all requesting that the buyer have a pre-approval in place. This is actually really good for us as buyers agents, or, you know, even as listing agents, because then, you know, we're being way more efficient with our time. And, you know, and making sure that we're spending our time wisely with, you know, vetted buyers as well. Of course, you know, it's not going to be the first thing we're going to ask, are you pre-approved? Just to help them. But at the same time, it definitely allows the buyers to be ready for times like, you know, going to tour a property or whatnot, because that's kind of becoming the new norm now.
And I'd like to add to that too. So it's not just on the listing agent side that is requesting it. I'm requesting it myself. So any new leads that come through, I make sure that if they're not pre-approved, I'm going to tell them, I'm not going to waste my time showing you these properties unless you're serious. And even in a market where shelter in place, there's still some homes that I'm still getting outbid. So in order for them to, so the way I put it is like, I don't want to go out and show you this home, you fall in love with it, and I can't get you that house because you're not pre-approved. So I connect them with, of course, a lender, get them pre-approved first before we actively go out and see a house now. So it does save a lot of time. And it filters out the serious and non-serious buyers.
Thank you. And if anyone has questions in the audience, please feel free to submit them in the Q&A in the chat, or if you would like to speak and offer your 2 cents, hit that button to raise your hand. Oh, we have our first question from Susanna. Susanna has 2 kids. Susanna works with Helen. I have 2 kids that are 5 and 8. I've given them a to-do list each day to check off items that they have to get done before they can watch TV, but it's challenging to make them stick with the list. They can get distracted easily by their sibling and start playing and throwing cushions, etc. How do you tell them that's something that they need to do so we can have time for ourselves to work? Who wants to start off on how they would approach that situation?
I've already talked to her about that, even her kids, so I'll let you guys tell her.
I think the age group is also very important, because the older the kids are, the more self-sufficient they are, right? So they're very independent, they're able to handle their daily routine and tasks on their own. But the younger they are, it's challenging because they have a very short attention span. So maybe the TV time isn't a good enough goal. Maybe you should say you get an ice cream at the end of each day. Because I mean, I would never do this at any other given time, but this pandemic has allowed me to give ice cream every day to the children. At the end of the day, I feel like, you know, as adults, even when we have ice cream, it's very nostalgic. It reminds us of when we were children. It's that warm and fuzzy, happy feeling. It just takes you there, right? So I'm hoping that once all of this pandemic has passed and shelter in place has been lifted, that my children in their older years will remember this time as not a stressful time, but a time where they enjoyed ice cream every day with parents at home. I want them to remember it to be good memories, you know, not stressful memories.
Yeah.
And hearing all the news and all people dying, it's really a stressful time. And I applaud the children for being able to rise above it. And they know it's serious because obviously they're like, Mom, you have to wipe that groceries down before you put it in the fridge. I mean, they get it, you know, but I think it's important for them to come out of this feeling like it was a good time for family to bond, you know, like, I don't know if we're connected on Facebook or whatnot, but just recently I highlighted my daughter's hair. She's been asking me to highlight her hair for a year. And I'm like, you're too young. We're not going to highlight your hair, you know? And then this time I'm like, why not? Let's highlight her hair. So I highlighted it. She tried to get blonde, but her hair's like Snow White black. So it wouldn't go blonde. You have to like bleach it to get there. Jay, you wouldn't know. But
I have no idea.
yeah, but it did get to like light brown and I had some left over. So I even highlighted my son's hair. Their school would never allow this, but because we're at home now and doing this distance learning, I'm like, you know what, why not? Let's make it fun. So yeah, no, I mean, it's good quality time with the kids, right? Isn't that the silver lining for all of this?
Michelle's kids are going to be looking forward to the next pandemic. Hey, I can get my ice cream every day. I can do whatever I want to my hair.
Yeah, so I wonder if maybe the goal, the TV time isn't enough for the kids. Maybe you should reward them with a scoop of ice cream every day. I don't know.
So another question came up that's really good. It was actually along the lines of something else I wanted to ask everyone. So this came in anonymously. Thoughts on leveraging your family in your marketing, thinking specifically about having them show up in your photography, videography, and social media would lend a more personal edge to your personal branding, which can be compelling right now. I'm sure there's a lot of mixed thoughts on that. Jeff, let's start with you. Have you thought about marketing with your kids in there?
Yes. So I'm affiliated with a television show on Fox that it's called Lifestyles, and we did you just fall out of your chair, Jay?
No.
Looks like
anyways,
you fell out of your chair.
I'm affiliated with a show called Lifestyles on Fox 5 down here in San Diego, and we highlight local restaurants and businesses. And so when this whole COVID thing kind of struck and all these restaurants were changing how they were operating, only going to takeout, what I've tried to do is still highlight those restaurants and those business owners that I've built relationships with. Like for one example, one of the restaurants was offering take home, make your own pizza kits. So, you know, I took a picture of us making pizzas in our kitchen but was highlighting where it came from and why and how other people should go support what they're doing. So I never feel it hurts to have your family, like, again, showing you're a real person, because everybody loves that stuff. But if you can use it to highlight another business, you're really, I think, creating the best look for yourself. You're not grandstanding or anything, but you're supporting somebody else, and that's how it would come off. So I think that's been a good approach.
Do any of our other panelists have anything to add on to that, or would any of you say it's not for me, not for my family?
You know, actually, when I did my very first video for Side, that video had my children in it. That was what, 3.5, almost 4 years ago, because this was in 2016, 4 years ago. Gosh, time flies. And the children were all in the video at that time. And I did think at that moment, like, should I have the kids in there? And I thought, is like a whole safety thing. It does make you think, you know, because the kids are going to be out in this public eye. But I do a lot of volunteer work at my children's school. So I think that because I do so much with the community of the location in the Richmond district where we live, and also because I volunteer so much at school, most of the parents at school already know my children. So I didn't really think it was a bad thing. I thought it's probably just goes hand in hand together, you know? So I went with it. But I know that the question meant, would you leverage it right now? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that you should do what makes you feel right for your family. And if you feel like your children should be involved in like pictures with you, I think it's fine.
I think on my end is a lot of my clients do have kids. So it's almost putting a personal touch where I say, hey, I can't go show you these homes, or I have these calls around this time because I need to feed them. I need to cook for them. And I also need to put them down for their nap time. So they appreciate that. And they're like, oh, no, don't worry about it. We completely understand. So there's a human touch to it versus just a realtor. So it does help.
That's a great point. Have any of you gotten your kids involved with the business during this time and been teaching them or having them help out as your little, admins?
I wish my kids were old enough to do that.
Same here.
Helen, your kids don't know how to calculate a cap rate? Come on now. Sure,
Well, not with my work. Actually, before I have let them to help me out with like filing and with business cards, entering the data entry, a little bit of data entry. But right now, they actually complain that I gave them too much work before, so I'll be fine. So right now, I'll just kind of like what Christine is talking about, that I want them to feel happy right now, to enjoy this time. You know, they are already studying a lot. I actually took up some of the classes from them because I feel like this is a tough enough time for them to be like, I have to be at home going homeschooling, and then both my parents are still working. And I don't need to, give them more work and give them more schooling. So we try to use a lot of time, like whenever I'm out of my office, I just want to spend time with them, and we talk, and it was like, hey, what did you learn? And I will tell them about my work. And I had been having so many thoughts in my head that I would share with them. So what do you guys think, And it's kind of fun to listen to these like 6-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-olds to share with me what they think about today's market, housing market, what the government is doing, and the news. It's kind of cool that way.
Funny, my cousin is an agent in Arizona, and I saw the other day she sent a photo of her and her young son playing Cash Flow, the game from Rich Dad Poor Dad. You guys remember that? So getting him started real young. We
did play Monopoly for 3.5 hours. And all they wanted to just keep building houses and building hotels. And I was like, this is too much for me.
One thing that we've done in our house, just to, we're trying to figure, our daughter's doing fractions right now in 3rd grade. And so being the non-teacher that I am, I'm trying to think, like, okay, how can we like talk about fractions together, like, and build some sort of life skill out of it? Because we've been talking about what are these life skills we can teach our kids, like, can they start doing their own laundry? Could they maybe like make their own lunches? Could we, we taught the 3-year-old how to ride a bike. So we took the fraction lesson and incorporated it into baking lemon bars. And so just trying to do like more at-home learning and like real life sort of things to make it interesting, and looking at as everything is like a potential learning opportunity, and it doesn't just have to be out of a book. That seems to have made quite a difference. And the one thing I want to do is like, my 5-year-old loves to dress up, and he's started this tie day Friday in his kindergarten class, but it's all clip-on ties. So like I decided, all right, my goal for the week is going to be to teach him how to tie a real tie, because that's a great like life lesson to have.
I absolutely agree with Jeff. I do the same thing with like, okay, if you are eating this much, and then if you have 3 brothers, then let's try to do 2 brothers, 3 kids. So how to do multiplication, that's teaching my kindergartner to do that. And then sometimes they come in, they want to be with you, right? But I was like, oh gosh, they have this writing class that they're supposed to do. So I have this whiteboard here. And I was like, whatever you want to tell me, just write it on there. And then in between, I would correct their spelling. So that's their writing class right there on the board.
Great.
I've been baking with my daughter a lot, and I noticed that baking takes a lot of math. 1/4 cup of this, and 1/8 teaspoon of that, and we're missing one of our measuring cups. So we had to. It's a 1/8 teaspoon. And because of the way that the ingredients show, we have to do like 2 of those in order to get what we need to get to. And so my daughter's been doing a lot of fractions in her mind, which is really good. And let me tell you, I am not a baker by any means, because baking requires following instructions. So my daughter is really good at it. And I feel like that's also another like skill that we're learning along the way too. But yeah, I've had my son, when you were talking about have we turned them into little helpers, I did have him actually stuff some envelopes for me that were being mailed out, because I'm like, can you take care of this? And he's like, what is this? I'm like, oh, they're letters that are going out. He's like, okay, how many? I'm like, just finish the stack. He's like, okay. So he did help, and he was really willing to do it. I just told him to be careful not to get a paper cut. But yeah, no, we have to try to do what we can, right? So we can't have our assistant in the house. Why can't we have our son stuff envelopes?
There you go. Once again, for any of the participants in the audience, feel free to submit your questions, or on the bottom, hit the raise hand if you would like to contribute to the conversation as well.
I can say,
So I'd like to add.
I want to say one more thing real quick.
Go ahead.
Working from home used to be a lot quieter. Can promise you all that.
It's funny. I always tell everyone that working from home, I used to be a lot more productive working from home. So I used to enjoy working from home, 1, maybe 2 days a week, because I have a long commute into San Francisco. That is before I had, the 2 kids in the house with me for working from home. One of the other big things for me has been that, and this is not what you should do, but during the day, it's always going to be a challenge. So Anika actually had a specific question about any advice for kids under 3. She has almost a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and neither has yet started kindergarten, struggling to keep them on schedule besides their nap time. So I can comment a little bit about that because I'm my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old. Then I'll open it up to the other panelists. So we've become resigned to the fact that it's not going to be normal, right? We can't be perfect during this time period. We had, for the last, almost year, completely gotten rid of screen time for my daughter, because it's just a horrible addiction, right? Like once she starts watching, getting screen time, you just can't take it away from her. It's the only thing she wants to do. Won't eat, won't sleep, just wants to have the iPad with her. When you take it away, it is like drug withdrawal, just tantrum after tantrum after tantrum. And it took a lot of effort to break that habit. And unfortunately, during this time period, I had to go back to it, just because if my wife has a call and I have a call, there's nothing else to do. The new thing we introduced that they're really liking, or at least the 3-year-old's liking, is gardening. I've never gardened before, but I watched a couple of YouTube videos, and if any of you know Kelly Griggs, she's a big gardener.
Yes.
So I learned a little bit from her. And there's no kid alive that does not like being outside and getting dirt in their hands. So that's been really effective. So she gets a little water pot, fills it with water, and likes to go out and water the garden and just put her hands all over the dirt. So that's been really effective for us in terms of being able to kill at least an hour or 2. Anyone else have suggestions on how to manage the young ones, the preschool agers and daycare age kids? Vicki?
I can add to it. I have a 5 and a 7-year-old. My 5-year-old is completely attached to the hip. So even when I'm working from home, he's constantly trying to knock on the door, trying to get in. So what I've done with him is basically in the morning, we set an expectations of what he would like to do that day with me on a one-on-one quality basis. And he'll tell me he loves hiking, he loves finding roly-polies or whatever it may be. And then I said, well, give mommy this time to do her work. And then once I'm done, it's all just mommy and Mateo's time. So he does respect that, and he does do it. And that quality time after I work, or after I put in 1 or 2 hours of phone calls or whatnot, or emails, I do spend that time with him. And I do keep, we put in if mommy make a promise, I'm going to do this with you today, it's going to happen. So he does look forward to that. We also set up a timeline where, every day or every week, we set up a new goal, like during shelter in place. is to get him to ride his bicycle on 2 wheels, to take him off the training wheels. We're going to start teaching him how to tie his own shoelace or stuff like that. So we make it something that he can be something that he can be proud of at the end of shelter in place, where he's like, well, look, you know, now I can ride my bike. That's great. And he's like, well, what's next is I want to read, you know, chapters book. So we're working him towards that. I know NECA's kids is a little bit younger, but I think setting up something that they enjoy doing and then working towards that, whether it's baking or gardening or learning how to ride a bicycle, even if it's on a tricycle, it's something, it's improvement. And it's something that they're proud of too as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was trying to remember all those like preschool days, right? And one of the things is that what I loved about that time is that the kids go to sleep a lot earlier. And so then I would work after they go to sleep more. So back then I did spend probably less time during the day working, but then a lot more time working at night because I can squeeze out 5 hours at night to work. So you might have to switch a little bit of your schedule because your kids are a bit younger and they need more of your attention during the day.
That's been my reality. So during the day, you know, we're both splitting our time with our kids. Then by the time they fall asleep around 8 to 9 o'clock, that's when we start to do our work.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is sometimes then you kind of get lost in your work. And I realized last week I went to bed at 3 o'clock almost every day. But that's because I'm a night owl by nature. That's my default. So developing those bad habits as well. But like I said, during COVID-19, you know, just you can't be too hard on yourself, right? Can't be perfect during this time period.
Exactly. Exactly.
Great. Well, we only have a couple more minutes. I wanted to let everyone just, you know, end with whatever piece of advice or wisdom they have to share with everyone. Helen, let's go ahead and start with you.
I've been thinking a lot about, you know, this is not just about ourselves, it's also our partner at home. At the end of the day, this is a partnership inside a house. Not only we're managing our work, we're managing our household. We have to, like my husband and I, same thing last night, we're like, look at our schedules, like boom, boom, boom. These are all the conversations all the calls that we're gonna have tomorrow. So who's gonna be doing lunch and stuff like that. And then we get the kids involved to talk about like, okay, tomorrow, mommy and daddy, our schedule is gonna be like this. And my eldest was 9, he actually said like, don't worry about it, I'll make PB&J for lunch. I'm like, oh, thank you, you know. So it is a partnership for a whole family to do that.
That's so cute. I'm so glad to hear that your 9-year-old makes his own lunch.
They pretty much have to make their own breakfast every morning, actually.
I'm going to tell my kids this. Wait a minute. Helen Chong's 9-year-old can make his own lunch. What's going on, kids?
Jeff, let's go with you.
I mean, my big takeaway from this is like, we're getting to be around our kids more. And so we're just trying to find a way to, you know, create some good memories and make it as fun as possible. It's clearly been very trying, and it's really trying on these guys to not be able to see their friends, and, you know, especially our 9-year-old daughter. So I like to think I'm a little creative by nature. So we're just trying to find ways to, you know, make it fun and make it memorable. One example is on Saturday night was my anniversary. So I got with my 9-year-old daughter and I said, hey, I think, you know, if you can get your brothers all dressed up for dinner, we'll have a really nice, like fancy dinner at home. So we got everybody dressed up and celebrate our anniversary together. And the kids are going to like, hopefully remember that. Like a lot of us have been saying, like, remember it for being more of a positive kind of thing, and, you know, create some memories and some bonding opportunities out of it.
That's great. Happy anniversary as well.
Thank you.
Michelle.
So my husband, you know, he works as a concierge at the Ritz-Carlton. And as you know, hotel businesses, they furloughed majority of their employees. So he hasn't been working for the last 3.5 weeks, I think. But he worked night shift before. So he would be gone from 3 to midnight every night for 5 days a week. So my kids didn't see him much. So I just take this time as a special time that was really needed for us. Because it was literally tag. Like he would drop the kids off at school. I would pick them up from school, but the kids wouldn't see him at night because they would be in bed asleep by the time he gets home, right? So right now we're just utilizing this time, this quality time with the family as definitely, like Jeff said, as a positive thing. And I think that it's certainly the only way to look at it, right? Is to look at it positively. And hopefully we'll all come out of this, you know, stronger, wiser, and with cleaner air, you know?
Thank you. And Vicky?
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, just making the most of the situation, creating good memories for the kids, bonding time with them. We don't get a whole lot of family time before SIP. It's constantly, you know, a checklist item: take the kids to school, come home, shower, bathe, dinner, read a book, bedtime. Now we get to play Monopoly, you know, or now we get to go ride a bike, you know, on a weekday, which is great. So just spending quality time with them, and, you know, working around our schedule. And it's nice to have a partner that can support that, you know, putting it on schedule to make sure there's no conflict when I need to make a call or when he needs to make a call. So it's nice. I think we're just trying to make the most out of the current situation.
Awesome. Well, I want to take a minute to thank.
Brought in my sandwich.
Oh, sweet.
Oh my god.
Oh, Michelle's going to have a conversation with her kids right now.
I know. I'm like, come over here. Let me show you the sandwich.
Hi.
Well, I want to thank each of you so much for taking the time to join us on today's webinar. I hope the audience had a lot of good takeaways, and each of you, hopefully you all learned something new from one another as well. You know, these are obviously unprecedented times. We're all, you know, making up as we go along, but really want to thank each of you for doing this and really providing some really good tips and recommendations. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.